friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Monday This and That vlog. And this is that one day a week where I just talk about all kinds of different topics. It's more of a potpourri style video, unlike my standalone single topic videos that I typically am going to put out. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with yet another, or two more actually, dehydrated meals that I've been experimenting with. And the first one I'm going to show, this was the last one I did, is the spaghetti. Now, I've actually dehydrated spaghetti before with the sauce on it, and I forgot that I'd done that until I went to start putting this in the jar, and then I remembered that I just what I did was I just laid the spaghetti out on the dehydrating racks, or on the silicone tray, and just on one. I just did one tray, but didn't think about the fact that it would be hard to get it into a jar without breaking it into teeny tiny pieces. So there's not as much here as it looks, because I didn't want to break it into a whole bunch of little pieces. So I got to thinking, if I would have remembered this, I could have put the pieces in like little piles, like circular piles that would fit inside a jar like this, and then dehydrated them so that then it would be easy to just kind of stack and layer in there like that. So there's a tip for you I think would work pretty good, as long as you make sure the size is correct. I would assume that maybe just using a jar and turning it over, and putting it on top of the spaghetti and make sure it's all fitting in there should work, or a lid or something like that. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know. I may do another experiment doing that. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, that if you're going to store it in a jar, it's going to take up a lot of space. And so you're not really saving room doing that. Now, as far as a camping thing, especially if you're planning on vacuum sealing it, what I do know about spaghetti and dehydrating it this way is that it can far too easily poke through plastic and Mylar. You'd want to make sure you were putting it into some pretty heavy duty Mylar and being careful not to vacuum seal, because that's going to cause it to even more so poke holes in the material. So then the other two was one I mentioned last week, which is this one, which I haven't tried yet. This was what was this one? Oh, it was kind of like my stroganoff one. And I still haven't done that yet. I plan on trying it, but I want to share this one. This was another lasagna, but this was my creamy chicken lasagna, the last one I made. And I knew it would turn out okay, considering my last lasagna I dehydrated, just the standard with the red sauce instead of the creamy chicken sauce. I knew that turned out good, so I didn't see any reason why this wouldn't. Now, it dehydrated up beautifully. I haven't tried it yet, but what I wanted to share about this one, the difference I did in this experiment was that I laid it, and sorry I didn't get pictures this time, didn't think about it, is I spread it out on one of my silicone trays and then dehydrated it on top of my wood stove, and it dehydrated quite well. I wasn't really sure, I didn't want it too close to the heat to the stove itself, because because of the silicone, and dehydrating it next to the wood stove, it's been very cold in our house, still wasn't warm enough. And so I needed to put it on top, considering the fact there's meat and dairy in there. But it did end up dehydrating beautifully doing that. And so again, I'm positive these are all gonna rehydrate beautifully as well, just like the lasagna, the regular lasagna and the fried rice that I did a while back. But yes, I still will have a video coming out on that. I'm just want to get a few more experiments done first. Just like the whole thing with the spaghetti, I thought about that after the fact. And so now that's something, instead of just telling you, oh, you can dehydrate this. Well, now I've tried it. It's reminded me that there's better ways to go about it when it comes to the actual dehydrating. So again, that video is going to be a ways out, because I'm so far ahead of my videos right now. I'm about 6 weeks ahead. That once I finally shoot it, it's going to still be another 6 weeks most likely before it publishes. Now, speaking of dehydrating, what I wanted to share was that with my experience from last year in the dried olives, I liked them at first, but I noticed as I worked through the jar, they seemed to get tougher and tougher, even though I believe I was vacuum sealing between each use. I still had all this airspace because I was using a quart jar, that I noticed that they got harder and harder to rehydrate well in sauces and soups. So I decided this time to store them in smaller jars like this and then vacuum seal them. So there's less airspace and then just use a little bit at a time. But I also took some in the same size jars and froze them up for use with things like tacos and putting on pizza, because I'm finding the dehydrated olives to be best if put into something that is already some kind of sauce or soup and then letting it cook for a while. It's just going to turn out much better that way. So this way I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds. Not so much, not a whole bunch taking up room in my freezer, but also at least having some that way and then having some in a dehydrated form. Mostly that will be for my Italian sauces and Italian soups, like the Italian sausage soup. And I have a video too on making your own Italian sausage. For those of you who are pork free, you can easily make your own. And it's just about adding the right seasonings to it to give it that flavor. And it turned out really good. So now moving on to the next thing, you'll see I have my silver teapot here. That's from World War II. It's from the captain's quarters on a naval ship. And then this is my newest teapot. And I got to explain why I bought a new one. So first, let me explain that this I found, I knew it was silver when I saw it. And I knew it most likely was silver plated. And when I looked into it, yes, it was. But I knew it was worth the $5 that they had on the price. So I didn't even try to talk them down. I bought this teapot and I've been using it ever since. And that's been like maybe 7 years. And I love this teapot for so long. It could use another real good polishing job. But it was, when Patrick polished it up really well, it's so hard to see because, again, this is from World War II. So you probably won't be able to see it. So I'll put an image here. But it wasn't until he polished it up really well that we were able to see the U.S. Navy insignia here, which caused me then to do some more research and find out. That's how I was able to find out it was from the captain's quarters on a naval ship during World War II. Well, because it's old and because it's silver plated and because it's been so well used, especially in the past 7 years, Patrick was scrubbing it up and he scrubbed the inside. He got a little too vigorous and I didn't think about it. I went and made some tea and the tea tasted like metal. He actually scrubbed away a lot of the silver plating on the inside of the pot. And I appreciate the fact that he was really wanting to just give it a good cleaning. And I appreciate that so much. But I can now no longer use this as a teapot. But I'm okay with that. A little bit disappointed, but at the same time okay with that. Because the one thing I did not like about this teapot is that it wasn't big enough. And now this will just become one of my vintage pieces. Not old enough yet to be antique. It's still got about another 20 years to go. But I wanted something actually bigger that also came with its own strainer, to put the tea in. So I got to looking around on Amazon. So yes, I found this on Amazon. And by the way, I'll put the link down below, but this is just an example of the many kinds that are out there. I selected this one for several reasons. One, because I knew for certain it could be put directly on a heat source. You got to look at that because some of these you look at, say you can't put them on a heat source. They just want you to heat the water on something else and then pour it through this into the pot. Well, that's not what I want. And so it took me a while to find just the right one, but not just that, but making sure I got one that had a fine enough mesh. I'm not even sure if you can see it on here because in the pictures I couldn't tell. I'm like, that looks like it's solid. Well, no, it's most definitely mesh, and you'll be able to tell when I hold it like this. You can kind of see through it. So I was like, that looks perfect. And this holds a half gallon, unlike this one here and my smaller stainless steel one that holds only a quart. This holds a half gallon, making it perfect because I will a lot of times drink on the tea all throughout the day, and Patrick will often have some too. And then I like to have leftovers for the next day to work through as well. So, and even if it takes us 2 days to go through it, I'm fine with that as well. But the first thing I wanted to do with this pot when I tried it out was to make a mullein tea. Putting mullein directly in here, because here's the thing with mullein is when you make mullein tea, those little hairs, when they're all dried up, it's not like the lamb's ear. The little hairs on the mullein can get stuck in your throat and make you cough, and it itches and it's really uncomfortable. So I thought, let me try this first to see just how fine this is. I'll know for certain. And I did that. I did the mullein tea first. No issues with those little hairs getting through those teeny tiny little holes that are in there, and it turned out great. So it's easy to pour, it's easy to make tea in. You just put whatever it is, whatever you're wanting to throw in, whatever, your cloves and cinnamon, your mullein, your peppermint, your ginger, especially like I really like making ginger tea this time of year, so I'll put in the dried diced up ginger that I get from, I dry it myself. I get the fresh ginger from Azure Standard and then dehydrate it up. And I like to put that in there along with whatever else I'm in the mood for. And then you just drop it in there. Now you can fill this with water first, but what I do is I drop it in there and pour the water over the top. I say pour because I'm using water from our own filtered rainwater that we collect. So I keep it stored in glass jugs, and then I just pour it right over the top until I can see the water up to here. And then put the lid on and then allow it to brew. Now, if I'm doing a more delicate herbal tea, that's something where I would heat the water in this first, then put this down in there. You'd have to go slowly or you can cause it to overflow. Once I remove this and put it in a place where it can stay warm, but not continue to cook, and then let it steep like that. Now, the only drawback to this particular teapot, the only thing I do not like, but I think, I'm not sure if you can find one different, but I didn't think to look for this when I was shopping, is that the lid is totally separate, unlike my others where the lid is connected. So when you go to pour the tea, you don't have to worry about the lid falling off. This one you do. I'm not used to that yet. It'll just take some time for me to remember to hold this lid in place. It's really not that big of a deal. I don't know if it's because of the design of this that they couldn't make that work because of how it sits in there, but it doesn't matter. It works. I love this teapot. So again, I'll put the link down below, but remember you can go through that link and it'll give you a place to start, and you can look around to see if you can find something you might like the shape or size of better. And also you can find similar type teapots made this way that are in glass, if you would prefer to have glass. Your stainless steel like this is going to be a lighter weight. That's the other thing about this, is even though this is bigger, it's lighter weight than this silver one. So anyway, just some thoughts on that. And then a couple more things going on around here is last week during one of my live shows, I was talking about how we've had some really, really nice weather for a few weeks straight. And it's been crazy because that's not normal for January to have that much sun in that period of time. So I've been trying to get out and get it started on pruning up my grapevines. Now, usually I wait till a little bit later because usually it's still pouring down rain consistently this time of the year. So I've started doing some cleanup out there. Now keep in mind, I didn't do much pruning last year because I was giving my garden a rest. And the only reason I did some pruning last year is if I don't, because my grapevines grow all the way around my deck, that if I don't keep them pruned back, they will totally overtake the inside of the deck. And my clothesline that I have going on the deck. I have two clotheslines outside, one in the way out in the back part of the yard, and then one that goes across the deck. So yeah, I had a lot of work to do. I'm not done. I've only just got started, but at least I've got started. But here's a funny story, is that as I started, I'll put a picture here of what you can see what I've done so far and what I still have yet to do. I took the angle so you could see both parts. But the funny thing is we get winter hummingbirds. There's 3 hummingbirds. I'm assuming they're the same ones every year because it's always 3. One that hangs out in the back and 2 that hang out in the front. And so I have a hummingbird feeder on each side, which because it's been so nice, it's been freezing every night. So I have to switch out the hummingbird feeders every morning. I keep 2 inside the house so they'll stay thawed. And then in the morning, switch them out because the other ones will have frozen. And that hummingbird's out there waiting for me to change that hummingbird feeder. The one out front typically is more protected, so it's not as likely to freeze, but the one in back always does. I was pruning those grapevines, and that hummingbird was getting really irked at me, kept kind of buzzing me and flying by and then looking at me, and chirp, 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 chirp. And what is this problem? And then I realized that he was a little ticked because I was cutting away all his many little perches because he likes to perch on those, those branches coming up and over. But it's like, sorry, Mr. Hummingbird, these have to go. But he still has plenty more. So I'll be leaving at least a couple, but he can still perch on the ones down below. How I do it is I start cutting back anything that's going out and up. Cut all of that down first, and then I'll go through and start thinning some of that out. Now, I don't cut my grapevines all the way back like some people would because of how I'm growing them around the deck. They make a nice privacy screen for us in the summertime, and I absolutely love it, and I love how pretty it looks. And so I have to keep some of those out there in order to make sure I always have that there once the grapevines start growing their leaves again. But anyway, so I still have a ton of work to do on that. And I have a lot of cutting back of the old dried herbs, like the marshmallow stalks that are like 8 feet tall. There's tons of them out there. Same thing with the valerian and the echinacea. One echinacea plant back there that's just still has these dried stalks. So I need to start cleaning that stuff up and cutting it back. Otherwise it just gets too thick with all of that. It's easiest actually to do when they're fully dried out. Then a lot of times you can break the stalks off clear down to the ground. When it's super, super wet, those things just kind of, they soak up a lot of water and you can't just break them off. You have to cut them. So it's nice if I can get out there. I noticed their clouds are finally coming back. So I'm hoping today to get a little bit more of that done. But I'm so excited about getting ready for this year's garden season. Since last year, I just gave everything a rest for the first time. I want to see how things are going to turn out this year, plus just getting excited about growing my own tomatoes and all that again. And which I didn't buy any tomatoes this last year because I had plenty canned up and dehydrated up. So I've been using those to make my sauces and whatnot, but no fresh tomatoes. But just know I'll be keeping you updated as I go along on the garden progress. So for those of you who are interested in gardening videos and missed those last year, well, we'll be doing the same as the prior 7 years that I've been doing this on YouTube. And then I want to answer a quick question. Somebody had asked me because of my mustard video last week, somebody asked me if they could do the same with mayonnaise. No, I don't recommend you do that. Mayonnaise is made with raw eggs. As easy as it is to make mayonnaise, it's easy to make mustard too. I can never find the right flavored yellow mustard because Patrick doesn't like anything that tastes like, has that more horseradishy flavor. Just the standard yellow mustard. I cannot find a good mustard seed or powder that has that right flavor. So that's why I buy the mustard in bulk, or now I'm buying it in bulk. But that will naturally be fine, but mayonnaise will not. It will spoil. But since mayonnaise is so super easy to whip up, and I have a video on that I did several years ago, I'll link to down below. It only takes a few minutes to whip up your own mayonnaise. Now, everybody's got their own recipe, so you can just take mine and just look at that, see how I do it. I think Mary's Nest, she has her own recipe video as well. So I recommend whenever you're thinking of trying a new recipe, kind of watch a few different people's or read their recipes and get an idea. That's usually what I do if I'm trying something new. And then I take those ideas, combine them together, pick and choose what I like best out of each, and then come up with my own. So yeah, that's usually how I create recipes. So my mayonnaise is might be a little unique from everyone else, but the same basics apply. Your raw eggs, your oil of some kind, and then your spices. So anyway, also please don't forget to subscribe to me at Rain Country Live, especially if you're interested in seeing our live shows, because now they're all going to be over there every Wednesday and Sunday, as long as nothing hinders me from being able to go live on those days. I'll still be putting out 5 videos a week here, and occasionally putting out some extra videos over on the second channel. The purpose of that, starting that channel initially, was just to have a backup, because yes, I'm still being, I'm still seeing things drop. They started to go up for a little bit, and now they've dropped again, and I think I've learned why, which I'll be talking about in the live show I'll be shooting today. But it will have already occurred by the time you're seeing this, so I'll make sure I put the link to that live show down below if you'd like to go find that. And by then I'll know what the timestamp is, so I'll give you the timestamp of when I start talking about that particular thing, so you'll know. Anyway, yeah, so even if you don't like live shows, I really appreciate if you go subscribe to me there, because that way if something does happen to this channel and I have to completely let it go, or it gets taken down entirely, at least you know where else you can find me if you prefer YouTube. And don't forget, I also still have my Rumble account where I can talk a little more freely about certain things that I keep finding. Just this morning, I found yet another thing that I'm not allowed to talk about here. So I had to go and remove a video from almost 3 years ago as a result. And it may surprise you what it is. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put them in comments down below. Remember, your comments do help us in the algorithms. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this as well. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.